I'm Vlon Trub, and I founded Trub Film Co. because I came across a lot of like-minded people who wanted to tell stories that were timeless and would be just as relevant 50 years from now as they are today. No offense to superhero projects, but there's a lot of stuff happening right outside of our window, and that's what interests us most. So please hit subscribe because we have a lot of projects coming your way and mean a whole lot to the entire team if you're amongst the first to watch them. Thank you.
This particular movie, The Man with the Golden Arm, it really spoke about addiction, and that was the main focus. And it really spoke about what an addicted person goes through, you know, not having strong sober support.
I mean, I think entertaining, it's a classic film that is just a joy to watch.
In 1955, Otto Preminger produced a movie that talked about a taboo subject for the time. A subject we're still not talking about enough today, even though it affects more and more families around the world. Drug addiction. The movie opens on Frankie Machine, played by Frank Sinatra, getting off a bus from a drug rehab center and getting reacquainted with everyone and everything that waited for him back home. His old boss, Schwiebka, who runs illegal poker games, his friend who runs low-level hustles, and Frankie's wife, Zosh. She appears wheelchair-bound, but we quickly learn that she lies about her pain.
I guess in the beginning you do it only for kicks. Louis gave me my first shot for nothing. I thought I could take it or leave it alone. So I took it. And I took it again and again.
Many loved ones and many family members to this day still struggle with fully understanding what addiction is. You know, many comments I hear from families is, why don't they just stop?
Yeah, I think that's the misunderstanding that, you know, still sort of lives today. Like, and again, it's that feeling like, okay, just stop using. If you just stop using, everything will be okay. Just don't use anymore. But that's addiction. You can't just stop using. Like, you know, Nancy Reagan just say no. That doesn't work.
And it's not for lack of willpower. It's not for lack of character or anything to do with moral compass. It has to do with what it is. It's an illness.
You need help, whether it's treatment, 12-step support group, you know, supportive family that understands what addiction is and what you need.
It's Dr. Lennox who took care of me down at the hospital. Real good guy. He told me at least 10 times. He said, Frankie, when you get out of here, you take even one fix, you're hooked again.
You know, Frank Sinatra's in the bar, and he's not doing drugs, but he's having a drink at the bar, which is a mistake that was made for many years up until like the 1970s. They felt if you were a heroin addict, you would stop using heroin. Well, you could drink and do anything else, but what they found out was a lot of people who stopped using heroin and turned to alcohol socially quickly became alcoholics and had the same result.
Frankie, you can't keep stoning yourself about it. There must be a million drummers play better than you do who can't get jobs.
I mean, in anybody's life, you have tragedy, you have, you know, sad things, happy things. How can you go through all that and stay clean? Where you get to the point where, like, using drugs is not an option. I don't care what tragedy or what happiness befalls you. Because that's the other thing. People sometimes relapse behind things going so well. Like they can't handle things going well. So it's sort of like, you sort of like have to embrace the lifestyle regardless of what's going on. That's kind of what they say.
You know what's eating at you? You shot off the mouth about kicking it for keeps. So now you're ashamed of even thinking, well, what you thinking? Ain't that right?
You know, in the 1950s, people didn't want to talk about addiction, especially heroin addiction. They had the preconceived notion that you had to be someone who, were homeless or or were unable to obtain some type of employment or maintain employment. So it was very negative. And I think it was a good idea on their part because they really wanted to get across that addiction can affect anyone.
He's a great character. He's a great person. You can see that someone who's addicted isn't like a bad person, a morally wrong person, a guy who belongs in jail. Like, he gets off the bus, he's meeting his friends, and sure enough, the cops snatch him up, throw him back in jail. That's like the last thing he needed.
Get in, dealer.
Who, me? What for?
You two punk. I didn't do nothing.
Frankie lands back in jail when it turns out a suit he bought from a friend is stolen merchandise. While locked up, the sight of an addict going through withdrawal is too much, and Frankie agrees to go back to work for his old boss as a dealer in an illegal poker game.
Hello, dealer. I come running as soon as I heard.
The slippery slope back to addiction is set.
Because there is a genuine desire on his part to be clean and sober. He does say in the movie, I'm not doing that any longer.
I'm going to get me a job in a big-name band. You're kidding. What do you think I'm strengthening my wrist for, buddy-o? Guy teaches me drumming down there, says that I'm a natural. Can't miss, he says. Arms made of pure gold.
You mean a job wanging these drums?
I got everything planned, too.
I think that the main focus of the movie is to show that addiction affects anybody, whether you're a younger person or an older person. It doesn't discriminate whether your background.
Is it bad?
Well, maybe the new doctor do me some good, huh?
We'll go see him when I get back.
Take me now, Frankie.
So, shit, I got this appointment. You know how much it means to me. We'll go as soon as I get back.
Please, Frankie.
I'll hurry.
Frankie, well, give me a little more massage then first, huh?
It's interesting. Sashi's character is very interesting because that's realistic too, where somebody's in pain. Pain management is a big issue. Like, thank God I don't have extreme pain. But if you have extreme pain, you're going to do anything to relieve that pain, and that's what that character's doing to an extreme. But you see that all the time. It starts with opioid as a painkiller, which is a great painkiller, but you get enough of it, you get addicted to it, you just need more and more and more.
You know how I got like I am? My spine was hurt.
Oh, I can see that. The ligaments and the vertebrae is locked together.
In a car accident it was hurt. 3 years ago, May 11th.
So that, I thought, was very realistic. Somebody in pain that ends up turning to addiction. And the doctor, the quote-unquote doctor who was helping her. I mean, you get that now. You'll hear of some doctor prescribing, I don't know how many thousands of pills a month, just writing scripts. There's places around here, it's well known. If you pay this guy $200, you'll get a 30-day prescription of opioids.
Nothing like that first drink of the day.
Go on, 3 cups, enjoy.
Hey, what you doing, what, huh?
Hey, they tell me you're some dancer. Well, how about a little dance anyway? No?
Like the opening scene with the alcoholic in the bar, it's like dance for a drink and everybody's laughing. That sort of struck me as just cruel, you know what I mean? And that, I don't know how much that has gone away.
He went back to an environment in which there were drug dealers and substances all around his area, and he really didn't have a strong foundation of sober support, and that's very problematic because, it was constantly in his face, so it was hard for him to say no. And even though he had the best intentions to stop using, he didn't have the support that he needed.
He probably could have used a little more help, like a little more support from people. And, like the neighbors, the friends, they were all supportive to a degree, but I don't think the support he needed.
Frankie! You all right? Clean? Yep. Good kid.
You know what I mean? Like everybody was like, Frankie, are you okay? But just looking back at that time, if he had more support, like whether it would be, they mentioned the clinic, maybe like a support group, like 12-step groups or other addicts who are going through that, because that's what all these recovery programs are about. I'm going through this, you're going through this, we're going through it together, and we can help one another.
Frankie also reconnects with Molly, a neighbor who is burdened by the need to help the men around her.
Hello, Frankie.
Dr. Martin Lennox. How you been, Molly?
All right.
Come on, baby, let's go.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
coming, John. A guy met while you was away. Oh, Johnny wouldn't understand.
So what could he do?
Ain't a question what he could do, Frankie. A fella like Johnny can't do much about anything. It's a question what it does to him. I'm all he has in the world. I don't want to hurt him.
She would be what we would call codependent, who enables his behaviors and will do anything for him. And that's not really helping him, that's hurting him. So you may at some point have to say, I can't help you with this, okay? You need to find somebody I can't enable you or sort of help you walk through this or carry you through this, if you will.
I'm quitting a couple of things.
Is it bad?
Not too bad.
You shouldn't have started again.
Kim Novak was really supportive, but she really didn't understand, and even though she was very helpful to him and supported him, she really didn't understand what he was going through.
All right, good, take it. Go on and take it all. Because all that you're going to need after that one shot is another, and then another, and then another. Take it. Take it.
If he had someone who had been there for him, who had gone through a similar experience, I think he would have been better off.
So yeah, she definitely needs help herself, because that person, their whole thing, their codependency is the addict, and how can I help them? And really, in a way, in the most extreme cases, it's like, how can I help kill this guy? Because I'm helping him get high. And then all of a sudden the guy is clean. You're like, well, what am I going to do now? This guy has his life together. Who am I going to help? I mean, do I have to look at myself now and take care of my own issues? I was so much more comfortable focusing on you and what you're doing wrong and how I can help you. So that person needs just as much help as the addict in many cases.
Can you give me a fix? Can you give me a fix? Can you give me a fix? I want a fix. I want a fix. Give me a fix.
I mean, like the guy in the jail cell, that was a little overdone, where he jumps on the bars and he's like screaming. Well, the withdrawal is real. The withdrawal is definitely real, and I think that's also somewhat misunderstood, even by the medical and treatment community.
He had an overall big plan to be a drummer in a band, and how he was getting himself together to do that. And then unfortunately, there were obstacles of his drug dealer pursuing him, living in an area where addiction was definitely rampant. And overall, what ended up happening, he ended up relapsing and still not having the help that he needed to have to be able to maintain long-time sobriety.
You still take tips, dealer?
Shwivka exchanges bail money for the rights to Frankie's soul. Louis, Frankie's old dealer, sees his opportunity to get his claws back into Frankie, whose life starts to spiral back down into the gutter.
Why don't they pay so good in the music game?
After dealing all-night card games and shooting up, Frankie blows his chance to join a top-notch band as a drummer and ultimately finds himself with the same old problems and the same old prospects.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm sorry. Sasha, we have any money? I need some money.
No, what's the matter?
Some around here yesterday, wasn't there? I need some money, Zosh.
Oh, there ain't any. What is it, Frankie?
It was extremely difficult to watch. You know, there's this person who clearly doesn't want to be under the influence, who wants to be clean and sober, and doesn't have the necessary tools to go about that. And when he locks himself in this room, the pain of the physical withdrawals and the emotional withdrawals were very spot on.
I've heard it, I've seen it, withdrawal. And the fact is, you're not going to die from a heroin withdrawal. You'll die from an alcohol withdrawal. But a heroin addict going through withdrawal, they think they're going to die. And they're in that much pain. So you have to respect that and give them that license to really suffer through that. Don't make any major decisions in the first year. In other words, don't change what you're doing. If you're, unless it's so extreme, you got to move out of your house, you quit your job. In other words, get stable for a year. That was always a good watermark. Like 1 year, I'm clean and sober. Then maybe I can step out and pursue my, drummer career or get my degree or do something, pursue it. Because I don't want to say your whole life has to be about staying clean. You have to stay on this narrow path and you can't do anything else. It's quite the opposite. Once you're clean, like look at Samuel L. Jackson, once you're clean, you can do anything.
It's the most gorgeous day I ever saw. I think it's the first day I ever saw.
Molly helps Frankie get clean, and with a new sober perspective, Frankie finally decides to start changing his people, places, and things by telling his wife that their marriage is over.
Even now it hurts me to think about it, but... Well, it's not I want to leave. I gotta leave.
You mustn't leave, Frankie. You mustn't leave.
Gosh. Say goodbye to me, Zosh.
She can't handle the reality and takes tragic action by taking her own life.
I think it's really important above everything else before you decide to change, your relationship and change your job or move to another state, to really focus on the fact is, what do I need in the now? And how to get to that point of establishing a foundation to be able to have long-term recovery and sobriety, attending meetings, making phone calls, having sober support, whether that be a sponsor, your priest, a best friend, or anything of the sort. Many marriages that end up break up for not only because the person has is deciding to be clean and sober, but there were issues prior to that were not addressed, and that when the person decides that they want to get divorced is because they've come to that conclusion when they've been clean and sober.
Why you gotta go around changing things? Why can't it be like always? Why you gotta quit dealing, Frankie? How are we going to live with no money coming in?
It'll start coming in Monday.
But suppose they call this great tryout off. You can't tell me it's a sure thing, can you? How, Frankie? Deal for Spiefke like always. Forget this great job.
He tells her that he's leaving. At that point, he realizes it's not a healthy relationship. It's not beneficial. It's predominantly one-sided. He's taking care of her financially. There's a sense of obligation. And the obligation for himself is not there until he decides to take that step and end that relationship.
Yeah, that's a tough call because, obviously, you want to stay married, you want to work things out, but to that degree that it's going to take you down the way it did, you may have to say, and I guess 1950, getting a divorce is like, probably the next to last thing you're ever going to do. But having to separate from that. And it's still very true to this day. They always say people, places, and things. I always say, what are the people, what are the places, and what are the things? And eventually those triggers, if you work through it enough, like, okay, there's Joe's bar. let's not go down that street. But, maybe a month later, I can walk down the other side of the street. And then a couple months later, I can walk by Joe's bar and it doesn't bother me. And that'll go for all your cues and all your triggers eventually, as long as you're working on it. But at such a vulnerable stage that he was at, he was just sucked back in way too easy.
There's only one thing, Frankie. You see, a good many people like yourself, well, they mean well, but they're weak. They let me down. I mean, I go to all this trouble, vouch for them. They go back in the habit. It makes me look bad.
Oh, I wouldn't. Honest.
All right, I'm telling you this because, well, once a man lets me down, I'm done with him. He comes back on his knees. And don't think that some of them haven't.
I have to say we've come a long way. Do we have a long way to go? Absolutely, we have a long way to go. I mean, there's a lot of programs out there for addictive individuals. There's programs for families to understand addiction. There's mental health services now for people with co-occurring disorders as well. There's medical assisted therapies that are assisting clients who are addicted as well. I think we still have a long way to go to educate families and to educate the community that addiction can affect anyone.
There was barely any treatment. There was barely any self-help. You were weak-willed. You were a bad person. And why can't you just stop and just sort of get swept under the rug? Now you'll ride down the road and you'll see a sign. Get help, opioid addiction, call this number. So that's changed. The addiction has changed, but it's out of the darkness to a degree. There's still stigma. There's still, parts of society that, weak-willed, bad person, so on and so forth. But it's definitely out in the open. It's talked about more. And really, any show you watch now, there's somebody that's either recovering alcoholic, recovering addict, has been to a 12-step meeting, is clean, is sober, or on their way to doing that. I mean, there's so many of those shows.
Technology is great. I think technology is great because you can call your sponsor on your cell phone. Your sponsor can call, or you can text your sponsor. You can email. You can do all those things that were not available at that time. So whenever you feel like you're struggling or you're feeling, triggered, you can easily call or email someone or text. And that's the benefit of technology, is that you can easily get in contact with your support system.
There was a time I was completely and totally against methadone and medication-assisted treatment. It's like, that's a crutch, just suck it up and walk through it, and in a week or two you'll feel fine. But listen, nowadays with the potency of opioids and now fentanyl, if there's anything you can take to reduce your withdrawal or to keep you from craving, I'm all for it, man. Go crazy on that, because the alternative is an overdose.
Become educated on addiction, and what addiction is, and how addiction is not just the person who's using substances, but it's a family illness. And so therefore we need to become more educated about what addiction does.
Excuse me, but it's always, why can't you just stop? Okay, why can't you just stop you can't just stop. If anybody could just stop, they would have stopped a long time ago. Okay, my personal story is I'm in recovery. My father was an alcoholic for years, and did eventually stop. But, that question and that almost shameful, degrading comment of why can't you just stop hurts more people than helps. If you what a better question would be? How can I help you stop?
Addiction doesn't discriminate. There's plenty of services out there. You can always call someone to ask for assistance, and people will call back. There's AA and NA. There's plenty of meetings online through telehealth. They're just a phone call away. And whether you're a family member concerned about a loved one who's addicted, or family members need support or advice, feel free to call anytime. And that's the message I'll leave.
Frankie's world is not easy to navigate, and it is not unique. Not every decision Frankie makes falls into a category of right or wrong, and this is what many people experience in the real world every day.